Hello, and welcome to the 2020 series presented by the New York Film Academy. The 2020 series are conversations with creative visionaries about craft, creativity, and collaboration. So guys, we're gonna have 20 minutes of shop talk and then 20 minutes of responding to Q&As by you guys. So please write in. I am Liz Hinlein, creative director, and creator of the 2020 series. And I am so happy to have Daniella, amazing director, wonderful human, and fellow DGA member here with us to discuss all things comedy. Hello.
Hi, Liz. Thank you so much for having me. I've watched a bunch of these and you are incredible and so thoughtful. So what a pleasure to be here with you and with everybody.
Oh, it's so great to have you. So what I'd love to do is to just, overly impress people. I just want to start off and show a little bit of your reel. Charlie, we're going to play that. And then I have a bunch of questions for you because you have such amazing work. I really want to dig into it.
Thank you.
I should have slapped you earlier.
Oh, Jeff, I'm sorry.
You gonna get burnt.
Actually, Charlie, let's keep playing the rest of it, this one sequence.
Yes.
We've both been waiting for this moment for too long.
And I'm back.
Damn, are we really doing this?
What?
Okay, stop there. Great. Oh my God, so funny. And I know you were just mentioning a cute story about that sequence. So I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, so that sequence we shot on First Wives Club in Atlanta. That was season 2. And, part of directing is just about living in the moment. My philosophy is to be so prepared that when you come to set, you can let the magic happen. And that's something that we talked about with Bethany Rooney in a mentor class that Liz and I had done. So that's my goal. Come to set so prepared, and then you can have fun with it. That scene we shot in the height of COVID, pre-boosters, pre-vaccines, pre-boosters. It was supposed to be this fantasy sex sequence. We had a conversation with the actors, intimacy coordinator, everything. We got to set that Friday morning and one of the actors had a cold. Obviously, rapid test, not COVID, but we had a discussion and I'm like, I don't feel comfortable putting you in that position. How are we going to mediate this? And so we put our heads together. I said, costumes, can we get some rip away buttons on his shirt? Props, can we get some champagne? And there's one shot with them more than 6 feet apart in the same frame, but otherwise, if you see, it's clean on him, clean on her. We just had props do masked and goggled, the off-screen water spraying, and it's like, it honestly, it's one of my favorite sequences, and it's a fantasy sex sequence without them even being within 6 feet of each other. And so for me, that's what I love about filmmaking, is just being creative in the moment. How do we take obstacles and continue to elevate things? And so, that's really what I live by. And it's so fun to be able to see the rewards of that on the other side.
Well, that was super masterful. And now I'm super curious, how were you previously going to shoot it? What was your thoughts on that?
So she was going to be washing his hands, and it was actually a callback from the first episode of the season where they have this fiery interaction. She's married, and he's a doctor at the hospital that she is kind of fawning over. Anyway, he comes up, kisses her neck, turns around, they start kissing, making up, and then she wakes up from the dream. So it was going to be more of a traditional, fantasy sex sequence, but here slow motion and water, and it just makes it so much more fun.
Oh, it's so fun. And we talked about the other day, and I'm really interested in how you approach this, that about making sequences in your comedy scenes. And you were saying it's
Yes.
sort of like shooting action. That's not, you just can't just shoot as like a tableau or one, or you have to build sequences. And can you talk more about that?
Absolutely. So, like I was saying, comedy is very much like action, and it's like it's a build. And so that's so important to me when building scenes. And we were talking a little bit about, group scenes like in Saved by the Bell, how there's so many of those sequences, and also how to make it feel real and authentic. And what I love to do is, like, in those scenes, shoot group shots, background actors, and really be thoughtful about who is sitting next to each other, because so many times in comedy, it's about the reactions that are funnier than the jokes themselves. And so, and then also what we were talking about is a lot of the times I've been working with these incredible actors who are so great with improv, having them a lot of the time just improv to the audience, because I feel like when you can get a true and authentic reaction from the audience and from background players who aren't necessarily skilled, that's when you can find the reality. And so a lot of the times I'll rely on the actors, but then sometimes I'll just off camera add a couple of anecdotes or little, I'll throw in a couple of just something to shock them, because when, like, I just feel like that's when you can get it really real. And so yeah.
So when you're shooting comedy, is it usually multiple cameras at this point to get the reaction and the delivery at the same time?
Yeah, I'm typically used to shooting with 2 cameras. So, if it's a group shot, we'll do a wide shot, and then we'll do 2 shots at a time, 2 people in the frame, 3 people in the frame. And then once in a while, like on just going back to Saved by the Bell, we had the season opener of season 2 was incredibly ambitious. And so I talked to the DP in detail about adding a 3rd camera just to help with just catching reactions. And again, being able to build sequences even more. Sometimes we would just put 3 cameras on it and just get it all in one go, instead of, okay, tighter lens, etc.
And did you find you use that 3rd camera in the edit?
100% everywhere. We could not have made the day without it. So, and it's also just knowing, it was a big space, it was an auditorium, just knowing that we could do that, and just very carefully, I shot list everything, again, coming in super prepared, so that, as long as I know how we want to get into a scene, because I'm very thoughtful about transitions, even if it's not a traditional transition, like going from like black to black, just transition of how we want to end the last scene and how we want to get into the next scene. As long as I'm clear about how we're getting in, how we're getting out, whose point of view it's from, and what's the story we're actually telling in the scene, then I feel like anything can happen on the day, as long as you're clear about those elements.
Oh my God, that's, you just taught a class. You just taught the mini workshop class on that. That's really great. So going back, when you get a script and you're reading it, are you concerned if you're laughing or not?
I am, and I will actually put a check mark, kind of like a table reads, how if you watch, thank God we're going back to in-person table reads, but if you watch the showrunner or the writers, you'll see them doing check marks at jokes. So if I feel like the joke is landing, I'll put a check mark. If I feel like the joke is almost there but could get a little stronger, I'll put a little asterisk. And then that's a way for me, when we go through the script and when we tone the script, to go, how can we make this better, or how can I make it better with the camera? If the joke is almost there but not quite there, I think, like, what's a funny angle we can do, or make sure I get a great reaction if I feel like it's not as strong as it could be.
And so where does that lay between, okay, I need to talk to the writers, or, oh, I think on the day I can figure out something with me and the DP can figure out something interesting.
Mhm. You know, I try to come in with the best and strongest script possible. So I will always try to prep for me is everything. I do pre-prep, like I'm starting a show in New Mexico next week. I'm like heavily in pre-prep this week, which is researching the show, watching as much as possible, reading as many of the scripts as possible, so that on day one I can hit the ground running. So it's so important for me to nip it in the bud, because as we know, when we get onto set, there are so many other factors that happen. I want to come in with the strongest script possible and the strongest, have the best foot forward. So I really do try to work on all of that in prep, because there's still going to be production challenges when we get there.
And this is one of there's a two-part question, but the one thing is like, because funny is so different to so many people, and everybody has their idiosyncratic way of looking at comedy, what they think is funny.
Yes.
How do you line that up with the writers and the show? Like, especially if you have multiple people on a script.
Yes. Well, I mean, I feel like the best temperature is on set during rehearsal. And I also love to watch when we'll do a private rehearsal, but I love to watch not only the actors on set, but I love to watch how the people around are responding to it. Because I feel like that's the best temperature possible. You know, you're in a room with like 5 people. Yes, they've heard it, but they're hearing it in a fresh, from a fresh perspective. The actors interacting, if you haven't been at a table read, this is the first time people are hearing it. So I really use that as the gauge, and a combination of what I think is funny and how I see everyone else reacting to it. So that's kind of what I use as the best temperature. But to your point, comedy is very individual, and so I mean, I just try to get, without burning out the actors, just try to get levels on jokes, in terms of how big is it, and kind of try to at least get as much of a grounded version as possible.
And how would you communicate that to an actor in actor speak to I guess make it bigger,
I'll say lean into it a little more, or I'll say go for it, or the tricky thing about actors is every actor is so different in how they respond. And I said to an actor, one time, put a little more weight on it, and at the end they were like, that was just too heavy. And then next time when I said lean into it a little more, she was like, got you. So it's just kind of seeing the moments that click. And then, to my prep point, what I try to do is at least go, if I'm on a show, a day early and sit on set for an entire day. I'll try to hopefully sound leaves the context on when the directors are giving notes, and I can hear where the light bulb goes off, because that's when you can see the shift happening.
100%.
Yeah.
So then the other part is, if people are laughing on set, like crew or other people, is it funny, or is it, have you found that sometimes it plays on set but might not play when you actually looking the footage back? Or the other way around?
Yeah, I mean, I have found that. However, the brilliance with it is that in post, you can adjust the timing as needed. And so a lot of the times, again, that's where it comes to building sequences and making sure you get great reaction shots and cutaways and pieces, so that you can help, again, build the sequence.
Which is what's so interesting, because then on set, it might not be as funny because it's going to be built out.
Absolutely. Yes.
So I think that's fascinating. Charlie, let's look at another sequence, if we could, please, of this amazing work.
I love you.
I love you too, Esa.
There's no way I'd rather be than here with you.
And now, I got a few more.
Hey, sister, go, sister, soul, sister, go, sister. Hey, sister, go, sister, soul, sister, go, sister. He met Mama locked down in old New Orleans, strutting her stuff on the street. She said, hello, hey, Joe, you wanna give it a go? Oh, get you, yeah, yeah, da, da.
Just remember, if you believe in yourself, there's no way you can
All right,
lose.
let's stop. Oh my God, that must have been so much fun to shoot those women dancing around on that big stage. It was visual and the lighting. It was fantastic.
It was so fun. And again, height of COVID. And so how do you make, this was supposed to be like the world tour. How do you make an audience of 50 seem like 100,000?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and again, that was working with the DP. We put the actors who are our heroes in the front watching. We created 6 feet of separation and we just layered the background. And then we just, on the top areas, we just blew out the lights.
Right.
To suggest people, and had a very handful of people standing right in front of the light. And then we just suggested more people there. So, you know, we're constantly, it's funny. So I came from being an assistant director and I said, after 20 years on set, I said, there's nothing I haven't seen.
Right.
And then after COVID, now I'm like, okay, now there's really nothing I haven't seen, because we're constantly reinventing ourselves and we're constantly having to change and adjust. And that first sequence with them in the rain, obviously we didn't anticipate rain that night. Thank God the prop department had clear umbrellas, because the DP was like, we have to have a clear umbrella to be able to light them. And I mean, it just added to the romance and to
100%.
just to the character of the scene. So it's just, again, taking what God gives you and making it better.
So I would love to just wind back for a second before we go to questions. And so
Sure.
we're transitioned from being like a heavy duty working AD, assistant director, to director. What was the thing that you maximized, or what was your thought process on how you were going to do that?
So I worked incredibly hard as an AD, and I used it as my training ground to shadow directors. And it was amazing because I worked with over 100 directors and I saw what worked and what didn't work. I would see them give an actor a note and walk away and see, did the light bulb go off or did they just kind of revert back to what they were doing before? And so I always knew I wanted to direct, but I am the kind of person that I like to have every tool in my tool belt before I go to the next step. And I feel like, you know, before I was an AD, I worked on every student film. I was at UCLA. I did everything that I could. And, you know, I worked in the sound department. I worked as a grip. And so like now going into directing, I know how to speak the language of everyone on set and how to truly maximize the resources that I have. And so it's so empowering to walk onto the set and be able to just, I mean, I'm more comfortable on the set sometimes than I am in my own house where I burn Costco pizza for my kids, you know? So it's, you know, it's certainly an adventure. And the transition really happened on the Mindy Project. I had made a short film. I worked on a TV show with Terry Polo and I asked her to star in my short film, and Scott Foley as well. So I asked them to do a 2-day shoot with me and showed it to the producers on the Mindy Project. And I was ADing on the show and they gave me my opportunity to direct. But I didn't even mention anything to them until after a year of being on the show, working my butt off and, you know, showing that they could trust me and showing that, you know, what I brought to the table. And then only after a year of that, I said, hey, by the way, I would love to direct. Here's my short film. And so, you know, this industry is about creating relationships and authentic relationships. You know, for me, it's so important for me to be real and for me to be who I am. And a person who loves filmmaking is so invested I just want to do a great job and tell an amazing story and hopefully make people laugh. So
Well, it's amazing that you were so the perseverance to knowing that you want to direct, but also, okay, I'm going to take this job. I'm going to take this job, because it's not like it's not graduating from something. It's not like it's just such kudos to you and your talent and perseverance that you were able to spin it off, with all that background.
And a lot of shows that I did AD on hired me to direct because they saw that I wasn't just a timekeeper. I was fought to make sequences more creative. I would talk to the director ahead of time and say, these are some things that were established in the past that weren't on the page, and you haven't seen the cuts yet because they haven't come out. Would you want to maybe continue that thread? And so I always came at it from a creative point of view, and I feel like that's what the showrunners saw.
And then how did you play that so you weren't too getting into the space of the director at the time, if you recall?
I was incredibly respectful. I would never overstep my bounds. Sometimes, for a director, if they were like, the actor was like, what did we do right before then? And the director would say something which was completely wrong. I would, very discreetly walk over to them and say, oh, hey, actually it was this, so I knew my place. And I think that that's also such an important thing on someone coming up, is to really know your place, respect that, but still be helpful and be a resource to everyone around you.
Excellent. Being a resource is a huge, and just as a director, being a resource for everybody, that you're present and open.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Which is great. And let's go to one of the, we have a couple questions, but I do have all these other questions. This is interesting. Did you do the DGA AD program?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So someone asked, would you advise against an aspiring director to do the 2-year DGA program?
This is what I say. If I was to do my career again, I honestly don't know if I would have done it, because it is such a hard path, to 2 years of the DGA training program, second AD, second AD, first AD. I really worked hard and lucked in. And I would say, I was the class of 2003. I directed 2000 and I think 15 or 16. I mean, that's a long time. And I think I was on the fast track.
Right.
So I feel like today, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily advise against it, but I would just want that person to know that it is a long path. And I do feel like into 2003, now there's so many more resources of shooting your own work, writing your own work, shooting your own work. I feel like the space is so much more open to newer filmmakers, where I don't feel like I had that at my fingertips,
100%.
19 years ago. Yeah,
exactly. And the means of actually doing it. But it's funny because I think I looked into the DGA, that program, the AD. I was like, this test is way too hard. It's much easier to direct.
Exactly. No, I mean, it's just a lot of work. And if you're willing to put in the time and the work, I mean, it's incredible because you get to meet so many people and work with so many people. And I still lean on those people that I worked with 19 years ago on the Gilmore Girls, to helping me parlay that into directing work. So it's certainly not in vain. It's just a long path, and you have to work. It's a two-way street. It gives you great opportunities, but you need to maximize. I mean, just a quick anecdote. So they used to I was a trainee running base camp, meaning running the actors through hair and makeup and such, and I'd be handed the paychecks for all the assistant directors. So what I did was, I probably don't know if I should be saying this, but anyway, I would take down everyone's addresses, and they were on my Christmas card list, and they still are 19 years later. And so, it's finding ways to continue to connect with people and make these long-lasting relationships.
100%, 100%. And then we're back to acting. So Sanya, hopefully I'm not bastardizing your name too bad. If an actor is new and in the middle of lots of takes, what do you do to make it easier for them?
A lot of the times with newer actors, I it starts before I get to the set. Let me start with that. And what I started doing in COVID, and I will do for the rest of my career, is that I call actors before they get to the set. I call them, I try to call them the weekend before. And I try to create a connection with them before they get there, give them a little backstory on their character, what I know, ask them any questions. So, cause like it's the minute actors get to the set, it's like, great, let's go to rehearsal. There's no connection time. So it's so important for me to have that relationship with them ahead of time. I also like to talk to them about, their likes, their dislikes, where do they live, their travels. And so I really try to use the things that I learned about the actors and kind of for someone like a pre-interview, to help guide them on the set. So that's, and then Sonia, what do I do with a lot of takes? If I feel like, if we're going to do a lot of takes, I really try to explain to the actor why we're going again. Sometimes it'll be like, we're going to adjust the focus on this one, or we're going to, do something a little different with the camera. For me, the most important thing is that the actor feels relaxed and comfortable. And so, because if they tense up, if they feel like they're not doing a good job, they're not going to.
Right.
The best trick I will say with actors is going, you know what, we got it. Let's do a fun take. And the minute you take the pressure off, that's when they can have fun with it and give the best performance. So that's a good trick that I have used to just try to get them at their best.
Even though it wasn't, you hadn't gotten it.
Yes. Yes.
I love it. You're like, that was really fun. That was super fun. But let's just try one more time.
Yeah. Well, I'll say like, you know what? That was so great. Now have fun with it. Don't forget everything we've said. Just, whatever you think, just go and have fun. And
100%.
Usually that's when you'll get the best take. And that's the one that'll live in the edit.
And so when you're casting for comedy, is there a certain methodology you look for or are thinking about?
Absolutely. I mean, casting is everything. And, really for me, it's about, do they have the timing and the sensibility and and are they listening? Even with comedy, are they listening? Because acting is about reacting. And a lot of the times with comedy, it's not necessarily they're acting, it's when they're not talking that I glean so much about how they're going to be on the set.
You want to see what's going on with are they listening?
Yes.
Are they having an internal moment?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so I'm curious, so how did it end up being comedy for you as such a clear, like, shining star?
Well, I worked on the Mindy Project for 5 seasons, and that was truly my comedy training ground. To watch Mindy Kaling, Ike Barinholtz. I mean, it was like my own, I AD'd on the show for many seasons. So I just watched and was a sponge and absorbed. And I mean, before that, I was working on the show Medium, where we would find dead bodies in ditches every week. And it was like, which path is it? Is finding dead bodies and blood? Or is it making people laugh? And for me, Liz, comedy, it's yes, it's about comedy, but it's so much about forcing people to laugh to also help create change. Like Superstore is so funny and so brilliant, but every episode they're making social commentary on how, one of my Superstore episodes was about the healthcare system and how the manager had a great healthcare and the workers had terrible healthcare. And, in the scene, in the episode, you see this gorgeous hospital versus this like terrible hospital with like Band-Aids, old Band-Aids in the bedding, and it's for me, it's when you laugh, that's an agreement. And so when people can find something funny, I feel like that's when the wheels can turn and that's when people can change. And, essentially I wanted to get into filmmaking because I feel like you can you're so pervasive. You're in people's houses. I really, so important for me as a social commentary and
Oh,
how to,
100%. It's a
yeah.
great delivery system that's sort of like, it's not like giving medicine, it's like packaging the medicine in a fun cartoon animal.
Exactly. Yeah. In a non-didactic way, how do you teach people? And
Mhm.
that's what I love about it. And I really lean into that and use that as an opportunity to help change people. So.
And then what style of comedy is like that you do gravitate towards? Because there's so many different flavors.
Yes. I really love dark comedy. I did Shameless, and it's so fun and it's real, and I feel like comedy that also has aspects of drama, because I feel like the drama is stronger and the comedy is stronger because that's life. It's real. And when shit happens, if you can't laugh, then it just makes things better. So,
100%.
yes.
100%. So because there is a Shameless clip. Charlie, let's watch some more of the reel, please.
Just remember, if you believe in yourself, there's no way you can lose.
Bayside loses!
Hey, Bayside, it's number 2.
Hey, getting ready for the next game?
How'd you know I was here?
Security called. Said someone was yelling in Spanish on the football field, and for once I knew it wasn't me.
Well, congratulations, you were right. You happy? We gotta run. Out now. Shit. No! All right. God damn it. Now, move. Fuck. Calm down, tough guy. I will shoot you in the nuts. Lou? You know this guy? Shut up. Ain't nobody here named Lou.
I can see the fucking tattoo on your hand says Lou.
Shit. That's it. No more conversation. No more good neighbor charade. The only way to get through to these people is to whack that bitch.
Gonna have to be a quickie. Not a problem.
Oh, shit.
How are we supposed to be in a relationship if you don't trust me?
What's up?
Are we?
That's great. That's so great. And it's interesting because, obviously the lighting is darker, everything's moody and stuff like that, but it still has, it also seems like the sound design or the music choices also are leading, that we know it's not so darkety dark.
Right. It's still light. It's fun. They're going to have a quickie, they're going to make out, and there's a dead body that they almost just sat on, when the sequence continues, you see that that was a dead body. They were like, shit, how do we get rid of the body? I mean, it's like, it's crazy and fun. And yeah, and those guys are amazing.
Oh my God. And they're, so what I'm seeing, and I saw that in your reel a lot, is that like modern comedy is very, what they would call risque.
Yes.
Right. So how, are you seeing different tonalities come out, especially after COVID, in what people are thinking is funny?
Absolutely. I mean, and I do think that a lot of shows nowadays are about, I did the show Pivoting. It's about, I feel like comedy has gotten heavier in what's important, like a show like Hacks. I didn't direct any of those, but you see how it's just a heavier, more it's more complicated, I would say, in a lot of respects. There's just more layers to it and more depth, and I feel like people want now not just a surface layer comedy. It's about so many more layers.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Charlie, let's just play the end of the reel. I just would love everyone to see that.
Great.
Sandy!
Who's that?
Sandy!
It's my fucking husband.
Sandy,
Your what?
I gotta go. I'll explain everything later. Go to fucking hell, Royal! Fuck!
And then he called her Cheryl, not Dr. Cheryl. A clear attempt to delegitimize her. Obviously, I agree. She has zero legitimacy. I mean, she calls herself Dr. Cheryl. Then Kevin brings up how Cheddar's French comprehension has regressed. Cheddar's tutor says it's because we're not speaking enough at home. The worst part is we used to share socks. With an odd number, that was a tense negotiation.
Enough!
At 3:30 a.m., I seem to have sent Kevin a digital phallus portrait.
A digital phallus portrait? What is that? Oh no, you sent him a pic.
Hello, Charles. Fill me in. And he breaks in the case. If you sing everything as a lullaby, Mac won't wake up. I understand. The handyman has an alibi. What happened? Is Mac okay? He just pulled himself up.
Hey, Amy! Look quick! I see a hummingbird out my window. Do you see it?
Uh-huh.
I don't think you're really looking.
I am.
What color is it?
Green?
Yeah, okay.
Hey, Max, I want you to meet my big sister, Alex Wexler.
Hi.
Hi.
You know, I've heard so much about you from your brother, it's like I practically know you. I'm sorry, did that sound stalker creepy?
Not to me, no.
Good. Good. Because I've really been looking forward to meeting you.
Well, it didn't work out for us in this one, but hopefully I'll see you in the next life. Until then, I'll just say namaste.
And so, as Brendan Delorier left my office, presumably forever, I wondered, was he worth knowing? The thing with people is, you never know who's going to make a lasting impact on you.
We built sandcastles.
The most annoying person you've ever met could end up changing your life forever. Someone you've known for a long time, you could have misjudged. So for now, I guess I'll say yes.
Heart is broken, 'cause I walked away.
Yay, that's so beautifully done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I just really, and it feels, everything feels super modern and interesting. And as we were just talking about, like super complex.
And just to that point, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, it wasn't so much in my episode, but in the final season, the show completely changed in how they approached the police work. And, some people who just wanted that light, thoughtless comedy hated the show, but I think so many more people appreciated that they took the New York's police department's point of view from a little more serious tone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they did an incredible job with that final season.
100%. Well, yeah, and they would have been tone deaf actually if
Yes, right.
if they hadn't.
Mhm.
Sadly, we are done. So where can people see your work or
Yes,
not stalk you, but
I have a website, my name, DaniellaEisman.com, which I need to update more, but you can see some of my work there. My short film, which was with Terry Polo and Scott Foley, shot in my house, which is over here. And then you can follow me on Instagram, Dan Eisman. And yeah.
Good.
So, and lastly, I just wanted to say, the only reason I'm here, where I am today is because I had incredible mentors, and it's so important for me to pay it forward and to help other people. So whenever I can, I love to do that. And a lot of people say to me, just completely new in the industry, how is the best way to get into the industry? And I'll leave you with this. How I started when I was at UCLA was I became an extra, and I went through central casting, and I got to the set and I just watched. I watched what everybody did. I took any opportunity to stay as close to the set as possible and learn. And I've seen a lot of, I befriended some of the PAs there, and I got on their sets as PA jobs. And so I feel like being able to just observe everything, you take in so much. And so I think that's a great way to just get someone's foot in the door to see how a professional set works.
That's a great idea. That's a secret strategy.
Yeah. I mean, how else do you have access to, and you're 90% of the day, you sit around. So bring work, bring things to do, make it efficient.
Exactly.
From every point of view. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
So
Liz.
great.
I hope everybody had a great time. Definitely hit me up if you have any follow-up questions. I would love to see everybody succeed. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you.
All
Thank you,
right.
Film Academy.
Thank
Bye,
you,
guys.
Film Academy. All right.